Welcome to the Choose on Purpose podcast, where we live with intention. I am your host, Becky Ploutz, and today we get to talk all things breaking through with business life and really being on camera and boosting your confidence with Elaine Williams, who I'm super excited to get to see and connect with her. Elaine, thank you for being on the show today. Hi.
Oh, thanks, Becky. Thanks for having me. I just have to say I was brand new as we're in this international networking um organization, and I went to the first conference, and I didn't know, I knew like two people. And Becky, you just went out of your way over and over to include me, to welcome me, and you just really made that whole experience for me, and I will never forget it. I will never forget it.
Aw, I love it. I made a note to make sure that we highlight like how we know each other because if anyone's new to listening to me, then you're gonna learn really quick. I'm all about being in person. So love that we can do this virtually and that Elaine is in a different state than I am. You're in Texas currently,
I
right?
am currently in Dallas, Texas. Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, and I'm in Wisconsin. So grateful that we have the technology and the ability to do this from anywhere and have that connection being built because that is how we started was having a virtual connection with that Global Women's Connection company and then got to meet in person a couple times now
Yep.
at the annual celebration events. And I wanted to make sure that we talked about our, relationship dynamic too, because um, I was really excited to have Elaine come and share because she has a passion for, you know, social media marketing and like video and like the confidence to be on camera, which y'all know I'm all about long form podcasting, blogging, and really, Elaine, that's because I was kind of burnt out from social media. So I'm always grateful to like have your emails and your great content of inspiration to just like get back in it and have these really tangible ways to keep building the resilience and just getting out there. So I was excited to have you on because we have a lot in common with the confidence and using that resilience to kind of push through
Yes.
and have transformational moments to empower other people to do the same. And so I'm excited to have you share more about who you are and what you're really doing with your space. So go ahead and tell us a little bit more about you. I probably botched your titles. I know that you're a speaker.
Oh, that's fine. Yeah,
I
no.
know that you're a comedic keynote speaker and that you do social media video coaching. So, what else would you like to share about you?
Well, that you got a lot of it right. So I'm also an author, a best-selling Amazon author. I'm also a
Mm.
nationally touring comedian, and I just started my own podcast finally. And so yeah, speaker coach, video coach. I really think of it as I do transformation with female entrepreneurs, and it happens to be through the vehicles of communication. So it's like,
Yeah.
because however you do anything is how you do anything is how you do everything, right? And so if you're holding yourself back, and who isn't, because we're human, but I
Yeah.
just think of what I do is I help people get over themselves so that they can be on their mission, imperfectly perfect. And it
Hmm.
happens to be, it can be on video, it can be speaking on stages, it can be podcast guesting. I just revamped a whole keynote for a client it was so heady. There was so much material. If
Mm.
our brains get too much stuff, we shut off, right?
Yeah.
If there's too much information coming at us, we go, oh, I need coffee. Oh, what's for lunch? And so I was like, okay, we got to pull some of this out. We got to create some more engagement. Let's add some humor. Let's
Mm.
add some exercises. And she knocked it out of the park, and she got all these other gigs because of it. And so I just love helping people, create conversion, create more engagement, be more effective. Because I think of communicating, it's a journey, right? It's a lifelong. Ooh, I get the thing. Thank you. If you're listening, I get the little surprise. What do you call those? The celebration.
Yeah, they're like interactive emojis
Oh,
now.
right. We're so cool and hip. Um, yeah, just like it's a journey to become a master at anything. And
Right.
so it's my greatest joy to watch women own that and become better at it and actually start to have fun with it, right? That's just
Yes.
I just love it so much.
Bring the fun. We always want more fun. That is definitely one of the connection points that Elaine and I have is always wanting to make sure that fun is infused in what we're doing. And you know, what I love about with the work that you do, Elaine, and who you are, it's always kind of like been about that balance and that harmony about being likable, in your expertise and through your business, but also breaking through the fear of maybe not wanting to be authentic and like you said, the imperfection or the perfectionism, right? That's people having fear around being their authentic self and being able to be playful and fun because so much of societal things is about, be a certain way for business side of things that I think a lot of us have needed to unlearn and really
Mhm.
step into that authentic, fun side of things because it's relatable and
Right.
we're all human. Like you said earlier, it's human and
Yes, ma'am.
wanna
Yeah.
have fun with what we're doing. So,
Well, and I think there's a balance. I'm a big I pull back the curtain all the time. Learn from my mistakes, right? So like
yeah.
I remember speaking for a private college that will go unnamed in Montana, and I was not aware of the culture of Montana. And
Mm,
I always came from the part of, like, being super vulnerable, and that's how I got a all the freshmen I led orientations for, that's how I got them to lean in and engage with me, and I was really masterful, like, people would
mhm,
say, "Oh, the basketball players, they're not even gonna look up at you," and I would get them taking off their hats, coming back a second time, because I was like, I'm a crazy white woman," but my goal was to have an impact, right? And so I used my comedy chops, I used everything to create engagement, but I usually
mhm.
started with being super vulnerable. And that usually works for a lot of audiences, but not in Montana. So
Know your audience.
to know your audience. And, it was a really long, painful lesson, that gig. But we want to be credible and we also want to be relatable. And a lot of times, I think when people are nervous, the first reaction is, I got to look like I have it all together. I have to be
Right.
perfect, which is counterintuitive because if we can't relate to you, nobody can hear you. I don't know about you, Becky, but I always tell, I had a client who was like perfect. She was like size
Mm,
6, 5'6", beautiful hair, beautiful outfit, a scientist. Like, I was like, "No offense, but when you walk on stage, if I'm having a not so great day, I'm gonna hate you for a minute because I'm a woman and I have cave woman instincts." And unfortunately, there's a lot of other women who might be like, "Ugh, who is this Barbie person?" But if you can make
yeah.
a joke and say, "Oh, you should have seen me, an hour ago, it's covered in milk," or, you know, some joke about traffic in the school or getting kids out of the house or something to make you human, one little thing, and we can lean in and go, "Okay, now I can hear her. She's human. She's
Yeah.
beautiful and perfect, but she's not really, she's human. I can hear her." And so I think that's one reason and I know you do this too. I love using humor to create connection and to help break those walls down so quickly.
Yeah, I love this because this is a really great example, the Montana example of how you really turned up your pain, right? This discomfort into inspiration that has really shaped, I'm sure, right, how you have brought through in your coaching and in your speaking style to really understand the value in, bringing that humanity to the table right away to break down that barrier and remove the doubt of the people that we're speaking to so that they can see themselves in and have that relatability really come to the table. I think that's super important. I love that was your example of that. That's really pivotal to like see um how you keep moving that forward. And actually, how we started our conversation before we hit record is what I do with everyone is asking what they're celebrating. And it can be anything. It could be about the sunshine. It could be about, getting to work on time, whatever it is. But it really is that relatable point that I do place it in the positive, but it's intentional to have a connection point to just get them to open up and say something about, where they're at, like in the
Yep.
moment.
I love that. And one of the things I talk about with my clients too is like when you can state what's happening in the room. Like when I have a new person and she's an insurance person. And I
Okay.
said, can you just state like, all right, anybody excited about talking about, no, we're not. This is a tough conversation, but I promise we're gonna have fun. I'm gonna make it quick and easy. Like just making some kind of crack like that instead of pretending like, oh, great, I can't wait to talk about taxes or, like, and
Yeah.
that's what you do in comedy. The waitress drops the tray of drinks. You say, just put that anywhere. Like, you acknowledge it and then you can keep
That's a good
going.
one.
But sometimes I think when people are nervous, they get, they're hesitant to stop their speech or whatever. But like that creates community. Like we're all in this together. And that's what I try to preach with my social media stuff too is, we want to be giving value and we also want to acknowledge our humanity. And even though I'm an expert, I still make mistakes all the time and I have bad hair days and there's always a new wrinkle. I'm at that age where I'm like, "Oh my god, could my hair get any thinner?"
Oh my gosh. What I love about this too, Elaine, is that you're really exempling the challenges that we have a lot of times around finding the courage to share an authentic piece of who we are. It really is about the courage piece to just say like, okay, break that barrier, let that go, and empower other people to know that they don't have to be perfect because you aren't either, right? And
Yeah,
that levels the ground, I think.
I love that. And I think images are so powerful and it's so easy to feel like, well, I'm not like this influencer on Instagram with a perfect
Right.
house and the perfect thing and did it, it's like, okay, but are you trying to be an influencer? No, and I think it's so easy to go into that compare despair. And which is why
Mhm.
I talk about this all the time. And I know you do too, is like come from your why. What breaks your
Yeah.
heart? I am a radiant, unstoppable warrior. I show people how to use their story for good because I'm on a mission to help heal the world with love and laughter, one video, one story, one podcast, one joke at a time. And I need a whole crew of people. You're part of that crew, Becky,
Whoop, whoop.
because I'm like, game on. We are not just on this earth to buy a new car every few years and collect toys or whatever. Like I don't have kids, so I give out in lots of different ways. But why are you here on this planet? And when you can get connected to that, it's so much bigger than yeah. You know what? I got graves going on. There's always a reason to not press go, and there's always a lot of reasons to press go. And it takes daily courage. You're right. It takes daily courage, and some days are easier than others. But it's like, what are you committed to? What are you committed to? Right?
Yeah. Yeah, I love that. When you say press go, when I was starting out my journey with video. So we're going to move into the conversations about mastering short form video and social media, which I know that you just love to sink your teeth in. So I'm really excited. But when you said there's reasons to push go and reasons not to, you guys, like I was the person that sat here with my phone looking back at me going, okay, you're gonna make sure you say this key point. You're gonna say this. Oh, wait, what was the third one? Okay, hold on, I gotta write this down. And I was so in my head, and then I would get some things wrote down. It was like, okay, you're gonna say these things, and okay, I swear to you, there was at least a couple times that I sat here for 2 hours arguing with myself about pushing the button to go live. So when you say that, I'm like, oh, so much rushes back to me in my own journey, Elaine, of just like growth, and how it really does day by day, week by week, just moment by moment of making the choice to know that it isn't about me. It is about the one person or the people that needed to hear what I had to say today in the most imperfect way, to have that barrier that we've been talking about just break down, to know, like, she doesn't know all of the words. She didn't articulate it perfectly, and yet here she was, and they appreciate it, and even if they don't say it, it's making an impact. So I love that you say that. So I want to ask you to share, like, why short form videos are so essential. Like, let's talk about that for building the trust and connection with our audience. I think we've been talking a lot about it, but, like, let's talk about the specifics of why is it essential for building trust and connection with our audience.
I love that, Becky. So, in case you've been under a rock, most of our attention spans have gotten shorter and shorter and shorter.
Yeah.
And when I first started talking about video, Facebook Lives a lot, people would go, Elaine, you look around so much. I had to really train myself. And so
Yeah.
my first point is wherever you are, you can get better if you're willing to practice and be uncomfortable.
Mm,
Now, here's the thing. The algorithms want us to live on the platforms. I don't want you to live on the platforms because it's not mentally good for you, right? But the
right.
algorithms, if somebody watches all of a 30-second video that you made, the algorithm is going to go, yay, and it's going to push it out to lots of other people who aren't following you. Depends on the platform. Social media is constantly changing. So a lot of this is their variants, right? Now, if you make a 2-minute video and you're sort of rambling, or maybe you're trying to make a bunch of points, or you know, and then people watch like 10, 20 seconds of it and leave, the algorithm is going to be like, zip, we're done. Because we don't want people to not finish your content. And so that's one reason is when you can learn to be succinct and do one person, one problem, one solution, that is awesome. And you may be like, but 30 seconds, 50 seconds. But what I love about it is as you practice this, you're going to get better at being more concise, more pithy, and it's going to serve you in all other areas that you communicate.
Yeah.
Quick sidebar, I was in an introduction leaders program for the Landmark Forum a gazillion years ago. It was my very beginning of transformation. And we would stand up and they would say, get to the point, get to the point. And
Right.
it was the best training, even though I was so offended at
Yeah.
first. Get to the point, get to the
Mhm.
point. And so, and there's a happy medium, right? So I'm saying, like, get it out in 30 seconds. Be real, be authentic. You may be like, so this is a process, and when you're first starting out, it may take you a couple hours, right? I have I have a group program and I have a new person, and then I let my old clients come back to practice and stay in the vibe.
Yeah.
And this one woman, she was like, she made like 4 videos, and my new person was like, I'm still working on my first one. I was like, it's okay. It's okay. You're here. You're doing the push-ups. You're doing the
Yeah.
sit-ups. And so that's a long answer to your question, but short form is one of the simplest ways to put out little chicken nuggets of goodness. And then that way people can go, oh, I love what she's saying. Where else can I find her? And then they find you and they binge you and they go to all your things and follow, follow, subscribe, subscribe. That's what we want, as opposed to a long, rambling 2-minute thing that people get interrupted with because the doorbell rings and Amazon's here and the dog barks or the baby cries or somebody's home
Right.
from work or whatever.
What would you say are some of the simple tips to start creating video without overthinking?
Great. So you always want to be thinking, who am I talking to? Right. So do you have your ideal prospect? My ideal is a female entrepreneur who is already successful and she's hit the ceiling. She
Mm.
knows it's time to work on her speaking, and maybe she's been doing some video and she's really like, "Ugh," or whatever. That's my ideal person who's already out there and wants to refine and wants some help and wants to add humor, right? So
Yeah.
let's call her Susan. So, Susan, are you tired of waiting or putting this off? I know you didn't plan on becoming a YouTube star when you started your business, and don't worry, you don't have to be. I don't know, I'm just winging it here, but you
Yeah.
want to be thinking about who you're speaking to and what are their issues. And you can give them one super tip. Like, hey, if you're just starting out on social media, I want to give you a super tip. It takes daily courage. So listen to motivational things, follow me for inspiration, follow Becky for inspiration, and I can't wait to see you on the screen soon. Like, super
Yeah.
simple. That was like 20 seconds, maybe less.
Yeah. Yeah, simple steps is always the best, right, for me, and I think for everyone because like we said earlier, we're short attention span, and when you were sharing your story about, the time when they were saying, like, "Get to the point," I love that. I can automatically think of a friend of mine that this is how she is. She's always like, "Bullet points." Like, I don't have time to, like, hear all the in-betweens. Like, "Give me the bullet points back." Like, what And it's like we there is a time that we need to have foundational like points and structure to like understanding that in a room when you're speaking, when you're commanding a room, like there's a process. And as well as what you teach with the short form content, right? Because this is where we really need to be crystal clear who,
Mhm.
what, how, all of
Right.
those key points that you just said, and keeping it super simple is important. So Ellen, what would you say are like the big mistakes that people are making when it comes to social media? Is it that they're lingering too much on getting to the point, or what would you say, and how if you haven't touched on it, like how would we overcome that if we're making that mistake?
Well, I think so much of it is, um, the mental thing of you don't need to have a big audience. In fact,
Right.
start now while you don't have a big audience. Look
Right.
at your numbers, but don't stare at them because there's bots, there's so many things.
Yes.
So, take everything with a big grain of salt. And if you're 40 and up, 50 and up, it used to cost thousands of dollars to get on TV and radio. You used to have to hire a PR person at 5K a month, 3 months minimum, like no
Mhm.
joke. And so even if you're like, I hate doing this, think of this as you have the opportunity to create your own network channel with a little bit of time and energy and not thousands and thousands of dollars. So that is a really helpful reframe, right? And then,
Absolutely.
don't try to cover too much. You don't have to be perfect. It's okay to misspeak. I have a simple script formula. If you want it, you can put your email wherever this is, and I will send it to you. But having a super simple formula in the beginning, which may seem pedestrian, but if you get used to it, then you can embellish and add on to it. But I always think of, instead of saying, let me tell you about me and where I come from, and like, oh, boring, hey, are you a female entrepreneur and you have a big mission and you just keep resisting doing social media? I got you. You're not alone. My name's Elaine. I've helped 100 people just like you. Here's a super tip. Are you ready? Start taking notes as you coach people throughout the day, whether it's your clients, your customers, your kids. What are sayings that you say all the time? And just start jotting them down. That could be a video, a series, a super tips. You're swimming in your own content. You're swimming in your own genius and you don't see it because it's your everyday genius. So
Mm.
that's an example of like, that was a super simple thing. Keep
Yeah.
it simple. And yes, okay, we want to know your origin story, but keep it short. Keep it
Hmm.
short.
Leave people wanting more. I think that's like the number one thing that I can say from my journey and just understanding that is like I am someone that will tend to overshare. Like I will tell you everything, this program has this and this and wait, there's more.
Right.
That's the number one thing like that I've learned is keeping it simple is the best because we're all looking for, more quick solutions and I love that your progress and your platform is all about one person, one problem, one solution to really drive home, like this journey that they're on and how you specifically can support them. Yeah, that's great. Um, okay, let's talk about humor. And how does humor play a role in resilience and leadership when
Ah,
we have challenges or setbacks in the journey?
woo! I could
And
this
you could talk about your
I
examples.
love
Yeah.
this topic so much, and I'm gonna share a little bit about my journey. So I grew up performing professionally all over Texas. Always wanted to move to New York City since I was a little girl. Finally got it together thanks to Landmark, and got sober at the same time I was moving to New York City, which I wouldn't recommend.
Wow.
That's how I
Wow.
did it. So I was very like, I gotta make up for last time, and people were like, "Whoa!" And so I had like a million people tell me you're funny. And I was like, what do you mean? Like I was just, it was
Yeah.
a very hard 2 years.
Mm,
And so I finally started doing improv and then fell into comedy. And I noticed that I was lighter and sort of more fun to be around. And I noticed that now when I was thinking of comedy, I was sort of looking for what is there something funny about this? And I started noticing, like, oh, you can be having like the worst day, and you could be thinking, well, this could be good comedy material. And it really helps take some of the angst out of it.
right.
So, fast forward, I'm touring nationally. I was doing lots of things. I always had like three part-time gigs and touring, and I was speaking on college campuses. And I wanted to have an all-female comedy club because I was tired of the boys club BS in New York City. I would have like a great set, and then the guy behind me would be like mediocre, and they would pick him because he was like a bro friend, and I just was like, you know what? So I got into flipping houses, and it was the worst timing ever, Becky. It was the
Oh,
worst timing ever. And I had four houses. I was rehabbing three of them when the economy tanked. And I wish I declared bankruptcy, but I was too proud. And I kept thinking, I'll figure it out, I'll figure it out. And the thing that saved me was yoga and
mm,
comedy. It saved my life because I was so depressed. My big plan had like blown up in my face. And so when you can challenge yourself,
mm,
even if you're like, I have no idea how this is going to be funny, but someday this is going to be funny. And I also learned from other fellow comics. Like this guy I met, Tim Grill in Pennsylvania, he has spina bifida pretty bad. Like I mean, he could walk, but he had like and
yeah.
he had this perfect set, making fun of himself, but in a way that we didn't feel sorry for him. And I remember
Yeah.
it was like a master class. And I've seen so many other comedians be able to take their biggest pain and turn it into material. And for you may be listening going, I'm never doing comedy. I'm never telling the world about blah, blah, blah. But you can write, you can make videos for your private inner circle. There are so many ways to express things and
Mhm.
turn your greatest pain into your biggest funny and or inspiration. And I truly believe that Debbie Ford, I studied with Debbie Ford for 5 years. I have all of her certifications as a coach, and she would say, your biggest pain is the biggest gold. And sometimes I'd be like, really? But I do believe that. And I'm sure you do too, Becky, right? Like,
Yeah. That's great, and I like that analogy t that idea too, the gold, because it feels heavy, right? That's probably why it makes a lot of sense and why it hits, because gold is heavy, and so are the challenges and our biggest upsets in life, right? Those are heavy. So it is, it's an uncovering that really happens through healing, through processes, through figuring out. And I love that you naturally, like one of the other questions that I was going to ask is about like self-care, like really what feels it. And you said it, it was yoga saving you and getting into comedy, like going back to the fun and how that
mm,
comes in and it comes through and helps us build resilience to know like, oh, this is part of what we're here is to overcome, a
yeah.
big
And
part of that.
they've done all these studies, recently about like resiliency and creativity.
Mm,
And when you're in a resilient state, when you can improv and be flexible, you have more brain activity. And when we're working out, right? They've done studies of the brain. When we're working out, we're using more oxygen. There's more like blue lit up brain cells. I don't know all the stats, but I know when I am active physically and I'm breathing, I am I'm better to think on my feet. So I know that there's just so much to healing, resiliency, laughter. And I want to say something else, Becky. Just because you're laughing does not mean that you don't care, and that does
mm,
not mean that you're not deeply concerned about things. Because I think sometimes I know I'm very passionate about what I believe in, and I can get very serious. And I know a lot of other people can be very serious, and
right.
and uh and I think there's a way to be serious and focused and light. I
Mm,
think you can catch more flies with honey. I think that sometimes angry protests have their place too, but I think that sometimes there's other ways that we can finesse things and negotiate things and tweak things and change things with love and laughter, sometimes even more powerfully than the anger stuff. And that
yeah.
doesn't mean I don't get angry too, but I just think, I think sometimes people are hesitant because they think it's going to come across as that they don't care. And it's like, oh, I deeply care. I am deeply passionate about things, but I try to use laughter because I know it helps me be more effective.
Yeah. I love that approach. And, for our audience, like holding space that you'll adopt one of these, tools that we're talking about, one of these strategies of overcoming obstacles to really stay motivated. If it sits well with you, you like explore for yourself. What are you going to do? I encourage you to do it for maybe 10 days, right? Try out yoga, try out really looking at comedy or humor as a way for you to um, you know, be lighter. I like that definition too, that idea of just feeling lighter, along on the journey. That's great. Yeah.
It's so true.
So
And Becky, you don't have to, you can watch stand up on YouTube. You can watch funny dog videos.
yeah.
I once a week I will go and show my sister my favorite videos of the week and we just howl. And it's such a gift. When you laugh, it burns calories, releases serotonin, you get more oxygen, you release toxins. It's one of the most free fun things you can do.
Yeah. I think that's great. Okay, so sidebar question, what you just said is, do you save those videos and then sit down and watch them? And if you do, or if you haven't yet, have you considered sharing that in your group, or do you? Like,
That's
ones
a
that you
great
find
I
is
have
funny, that
I
would be
save them.
amazing.
Oh my gosh, I save them
Share
to
them. Oh my gosh,
show,
people
like,
wanna
but
know
I'm
what you
like,
think is
"Oh,
funny. Yeah,
I could share them more with my people." See, that's a great, yeah, because I talk about
yeah,
humor and I use it when I teach video and speaking,
right.
but I'm like, "Oh my gosh, I could share more of that."
And you know what's really this could be a extra behind the scenes because everything that I do is helping you be seen, heard, and really celebrated for the impact that you make. And look at the impact that I'm sure it makes with your sister and your relationship and your dynamic to like have that connection point. Another fun thing to consider would be like one of the times set up your camera and do like a behind the scenes of you showing her the videos and you guys laughing together about the videos. That would be amazing.
Oh, I love that. Thank
Yeah.
you. We have
Yeah.
this joke. So, I usually live in New Jersey outside of New York City, but I'm in Dallas because my parents need more help.
Yeah.
And so we have this joke that my sister wanted to be a dog trainer because we used to watch this show called Run Joe Run in the 70s. It had like 2 seasons and it was about this German Shepherd. It was hilarious. Anyway,
Oh, wow.
and so every once in a while when she's trying to train her dogs, I'll take a video and she'll be like, "Stop it!" But it just makes me laugh so hard at that she's still like aspiring to be a dog trainer, even though she's not. But that's just one of our jokes. So
Yeah. Oh, I love it, and then you have this extra tie, right, in this relationship of the funny dog videos. That's super cute. I love that. Okay, and okay, I was just what does I mean how, not what. How does the comedic keynote skills like inspire your audience to believe and engage in your brand more? Like bringing that to the table, right? Like how do we break through, or maybe how did you like break through the fear of the impact, sharing your story, sharing those vulnerable pieces, and embrace your authentic side, like in what you do with your comedic stand up? You know, how does that translate in helping your audience really believe and really want to engage with your brand, which is captivate the crowd? How do you see that kind of bringing back fun to business, from your view?
Wow, that's a great question. So quick, when I was doing comedy, you're always searching to find ways to get gigs that pay, because you do all this stuff for free. And I had a new agent, and she was like, "I need a new female comedian on the college circuit." I was like, "Oh." And luckily my friends were like, "You're not ready, Elaine. You're funny, but you're going to be up against people who've been on Letterman 10 times. Like, you're
Wow.
not, it's very competitive." But then they said, "Didn't you have those addictions?" And I was like, "Yeah, I had 3." And so I came
Wow.
in to the college circuit as the funny eating disorder girl. And
Mm.
then they were like, my next agent was like, "Can you talk about drugs and alcohol?" And I was like, "Sure." And then another agent later, because things changed a lot. She was like, "Can you talk about your sexual assault?" And I was like, "If I can save one person, okay." So I was
Yeah.
talking about it way before Me Too was so mainstream. And then I just realized, like, yes, I love using my story for good, and it's heavy and it's re-traumatizing. And so when Me Too came out, I was like, yay, somebody else can can take that and run with that. So, but I compare it because heavy topics, right? Heavy topics on college campuses and military bases. Nobody wants to talk about that, especially 18-year-olds. So I would set up the context, right? Like, "Hey, this is going to be some heavy stuff, but I promise the information could save your life or somebody that you love. And then I promise I'm going to leave you up. We're going to have some fun too. Is
Yeah.
that cool? And I'm gonna be vulnerable." And so I do a version of this when I'm speaking for business people, because I think we have so much shame in this
Mhm.
country, especially women, about, like, I should know what annuities means, but I only hear it once a year and I don't remember. It's like Russian. Like, you learn something and then you don't use it, so you forget it, right?
Right.
I think so many women in business feel like they should be further along. They've spent
Mm.
so much, they've invested so much, and they should be blah, 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 or whatever. And so I want to bring humor because it helps people stay open, it helps them learn more. And they've done studies that when you're laughing, you retain the information more.
Mm.
So and you may be like, "Okay, Lane, I'm never going to be funny." But I believe if you're willing to be uncomfortable, you can learn to be funnier. Not everyone's going to be brilliant like Wanda Sykes or Richard Pryor, but there are so many things you can do. Again, you can show a funny video, you can show a cartoon. Please be careful of trademark stuff, but there's a lot of ways you can add humor. There's basic things you can do. Reach out to me. I do find your funny workshops every once in a while. So there's so many ways you can add it. And there's a saying in Toastmasters, you don't have to be funny to speak, only if you want to get paid. And it just helps. And if look, I've been to a lot of conferences and I've seen a lot of keynote speakers, and they have hired somebody to help them add jokes and practice the jokes, and
Right.
it just makes him that much more marketable. So you can learn it. Some people are naturally funnier than others, but there's lots of different ways to be funny. You don't have to be over the top like me. You can be dry like Stephen Wright. There's lots of different ways.
Yeah, I love even thinking about that for myself. I mean, I'm a growth junkie. So, TED Talks is something that
Ah,
I love, and I swear every single one, and I'm sure there's the strategy and the process that is specific to them getting coached on the stage, but they always have at least one time during their 12 to 15 minutes or whatever, that they get a laugh.
Yeah.
At least one. And I've noticed that. So when you're saying that just came back to me, it's like every single time I'm either like, ha, that's true, or I actually am laughing because it's a relatable moment to open you up as the audience to just say, like, oh yeah, I want to
Yeah.
lean into that.
I love that, Becky. Well, we laugh when we're surprised. We laugh when we're shocked. We laugh because it's true. We
Mhm.
laugh because we can relate, right?
Yeah.
And and so to me, it's just such a beautiful tool. I think we should be teaching it in high schools and
Yeah.
colleges to use as a way to connect with people and to facilitate
I mean,
conversation.
my brand new 10-year-old is doing this. Like they do like a joke of the day at school, and he literally on the way to school today actually. He was like trying to write up a funny um I don't remember what he called it, but it was just like a page that he was writing like a silly thing on to make someone laugh. And he really tries to make humor a part of his interactions. So I think beyond that, like before college even,
Yeah.
like helping the kids, and a lot of the times I shut it down because it's like boy humor that I'm like, "That's not
Oh, sometimes they're
funny."
like, yeah, sometimes
But
it's all potty. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, exactly. But, I think there's a huge thing to think about in how can we encourage it in a really healthy way. As a mom, like, how can I encourage my boys to be funny and, in a non-potty way?
Right.
That's really exciting to think about because it was just my reality this morning, thinking about that. But, okay, I have something fun to kinda, like, start wrapping us up here to say, like, okay, finish this sentence. If you want to captivate your audience, you must.
Mm. Let them feel you.
Mm. Is it like in the moment? Like what you're bringing, like what you're sharing with the audience? Would it be like the feeling in the performance or the
Let
process of
them
what you're
let
sharing?
them feel your passion.
Mm.
And this takes practice for a lot of people, especially if you were brought up in dysfunction or lots of criticism or whatever. It can be very scary. But when you can feel your passion and you're coming from a place of goodwill to inspire, educate, motivate, entertain. And so when you can be open enough to let them feel that, oh, and I just think it takes practice. I just think it takes stage time and working with a coach. And, I've been on stage my whole life, but I can feel an audience. And there's things I do intuitively that I don't even realize I'm doing, right? But when you can let them feel you, it's it's magic. It's magic. And I think that's why we love being entertained. Like Bruce
Mm.
Springsteen. I've never seen him in concert, but like you feel him. You feel his passion. Lady Gaga, like there's some amazing performers and yes, they're talented musically, vocally, but we feel them. And so as a speaker, if you can work on letting yourself feel your passion and then practicing being open enough to let your audience feel it, it can feel daunting, but it's so beautiful. And to me, that's magic.
Mm. I love that. Thank you for sharing your passion. Like, definitely feel you and how you love to support people in their transformation and getting to witness that expression. Those are words that I've heard you say that I'm like, yes, that's so beautiful. And sharing your stories and your insights, your wisdom with us to say, like, this isn't the Elaine that's always been there. You have transformed yourself. You have grown from each of your experiences, the processes, the all of the trips that you've taken, the stages that you've took, all of the places that you spoke and learned from, those audiences and the way that you present and the way that you continue to move forward. It's very inspiring, and I want to say thank you. And um, I would love for you to share, like, take a couple minutes to just share, like, one, I wanted to actually highlight the fact that I know that Elaine has a beautiful, like, free short form video content guide on her website, that I'll have in the show notes for you to go and grab and connect with her. But Elaine, if you want to give a little more details about any programs, your community, your podcast, go ahead and shout yourself out. We want to hear how they can connect with you.
Okay, well, thank you so much, Becky. So I do have a short form video program that runs every couple of months, and I'm not going to be offering it much longer. So if you want to jump in soon. I also have a VIP speaker mastery program, and I am so excited. I've been working on this and doing versions of it for years and years and years. So if you know it's time to be confident, to go for it, to grow your business, to grow your purpose, reach out to me at Captivate the Crowd, Elaine at captivatethecrowd.com. And then I also have this really fun podcast called Captivate the Mic, MIC, Captivate the Mic.
Mm.
And the goal was to elevate women telling their stories and also give professional speaking tips, video tips, and podcast guesting and media training, because I
Mm.
have done all the mistakes. I looked like a hunchback on 6 a.m. Connecticut TV one time. I did not realize that they were shooting from the side. I
Oh.
mean, I can just tell you all the things. I got hijacked. I was on Fox TV, and the host asked me about my sobriety, which we were not going to talk about. Like, you name it has happened to me. And so I'm like, learn from my mistakes so that you can be prepared, so that no matter what happens, you can still use that segment, because any media is good media, in my opinion.
Mm.
So the best way is, yeah, follow Captivate the Mic or reach out to me at Elaine at Captivate the Crowd, because I've got cool things coming down the pikes. And yeah, let's make 2025 your best year ever. And the world needs you now more than ever, and nobody does it like you. Like nobody.
Nobody. I love it. Yeah, step into your greatness, right? By being real, being relatable, being your radiant self, bring that humor to the table, connect with Elaine. Elaine, thank you again for taking time to be on the show. It's been such a delight to hear more of the in-depth behind the scenes about how, you're the beautiful, amazing person that I've come to know and love. And I know that there was huge value in the tips that you were sharing and just the rawness of, going through the journey of becoming a confident creator and, really just getting to the point of what we're here to do and express, and that it is a practice, that understanding. So thank you again for being here on the Choose on Purpose podcast and
Mm,
being part of the Wisdom of Women series, because I am wowed by you and I'm so grateful to be able to share this space with you. So thank you for being here.
thanks, Becky. Thanks.
Yeah. Love yourself, live fearlessly, do all things with purpose. This is the Choose on Purpose podcast. This is Elaine Williams, who joined me today as a featured collaborator. Go connect and grab those freebies and get connected in the community. Until next time, have a great day.